What's going on, guys? Phil Flair here, and today we're talking the Kahles DLR, or Dynamic Long Range, that Kahles is coming out with this year for 2021. Now, if you're familiar with the Kahles line of optics, this is a pretty much upgraded version of their k525i model. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and knock out two birds with one stone in this video and answer my age-old question that I get on all my social media channels, which is, hey Phil, why do you run Kahles optics over all the other rifle scopes in the market? So I'm gonna go ahead and answer that in this video as well. With this rifle scope, I've got just about 300 rounds shot through it, and it's safe to say that I'm ready to pull the trigger on giving you guys my overall thoughts on this rifle scope. If this thing is like any of all the other Kahles rifle scopes that I do own, I know it's gonna be built to last for a while, and I'm truly excited about the upgrades. So let's go ahead and dive into the technical data of the Kahles DLR, which you can find on Kahles's website. So the very first thing is the DLR is a 5-25 variable powered optic with a 56mm objective and a 34mm tube. It's got an eye relief of 3.74 inches, and it weighs 35 ounces without all these accessories on it, which is just over 2 pounds. Its overall length is 14.8 inches, and just to give you guys a side-by-side example, from, let's say, the k624, you can see how much shorter it is from its older brother, right, that the k525i body has over the k624. Now, the DLR is a first focal plane rifle scope with an illuminated reticle, and it has a zero stop, which gives you 0.2 mils of under travel. So what that means is once I'm on zero, I can go down 2/10. So in the case that I'm switching from ammunition to ammunition, or I'm doing a new load development, or let's say, you know, my zero got bumped, I have the ability to go 2/10 under zero to readjust my zero if necessary. So that's a pretty cool feature that all the Kahles scopes have. Now, one of the very first features that stick out of the DLR is the easy readable turret. And what I mean by that is, instead of cramming 14 or 16 mils like the k525i's and the k624, they cram 14 mils in one revolution. The DLR only has 10 mils per revolution. So what that gives the shooter is the ability to see his or her elevation turret a lot more clear and not have to squint. You still got your nice positive tactile clicks, which is super nice, but now, as you can see, you've got a nice readable turret. The numbers are nice and big so that you're not getting lost, or trying to figure out if you're maybe 2.5 or 2.6 or 2.6 or 2.7. It's really identifiable to figure out where you're at on that elevation turret. Just like all the other Kahles line of optics, the features are all pretty much the same in terms of location of the parallax knob, which is directly underneath the elevation turret. So you've got your elevation turret, and then directly underneath here is the parallax, or side focus. And with the DLR will come with a parallax lever as well as a magnification throw lever, where the k525i models will not come with that. You have to get it aftermarket from either Kahles or a different manufacturer that makes aftermarket throw levers for them. Now, for this model, I've got the right side windage, but you can opt for a left side windage as well. Another neat feature on the windage knob is the twist guard, which prevents the shooter from bumping or knocking the windage when he or she is running up against a barricade, and using vertical support to help with the stability of their shooting position. And the next difference that you can't see by just looking at the body is the 8% increased field of view from the k525i to the DLR. Here you can see side-by-side view of the comparisons of the field of view between the k525i and the DLR. If you notice that 8% is a little bit noticeable, but either way, having a nice wide field of view is always good, especially if you're a tactical precision rifle competitor or a long-range hunter, and it just makes acquiring a target that much easier with a nice wide field of view. Both the k525i and the DLR are equipped with its second rev indicator. What that means is, once I hit my first revolution, what happens is this little red nipple pops up that indicates that, okay, now I'm on 10 mils, and with this optic that's zeroed at 20 MOA, I've got exactly 20 mils of elevation travel. Now that's a lot, especially this rifle scope in the future is going to be sitting in my competition rifle, which is a 6BRA, and that gives me the ability to shoot over 1,500 yards. I think it's like 1,560, which without having to hold or dial over. So easily I can reach out to a mile, but I'd have to either get a higher scope base with rings, or hold over my reticle, which I've done in the past. So now, one of my favorite features that started with the k525i line is the hidden scope tool inside of the illumination turret. So for those that don't know, and if you own a k525i, if you didn't know this, but you've got your own little scope tool inside the illumination turret, the illumination knob of the rifle scope. So in the case that, let's say you go to the range and you forgot your scope tools, or you're on the gun and you don't want to get off and dig through your pack to figure out where your scope tools are at, you can adjust your scope while it's staying on the gun. Saves you time. I really like this, that they did that. Good on you there, Kahles. So I think that, again, is a pretty game-changing feature. I know it's not a tool list like a couple of rifle scopes on the market out there, but still, I think it just about makes it the same thing. Now what we're going to do is do some real quick side-by-side comparisons between the DLR, the original k525i, and the k624. So we've got our DLR here in the center. We've got our k525, and on the far left, as you're looking, is the k624i. So immediately you can tell the k525 and the DLR are a lot shorter. I mean, the k624 just looks like a telescope. Imagine putting another sunshade on top of that. I mean, it's really long on a gun. You got nice big turrets on the elevation knob here versus the k624. It's small. What I really like is the magnification knob as well, or the magnification ring for both the k525 and the DLR. I mean, again, they're the same. And honestly, the lever, I'm gonna take this off because, especially if I'm floating at like 15 power, it's hard to see, especially from a top-down view. If you're looking where I've got my anti-cant device located in front of the elevation turret, when I'm on 15 power, when I'm on the gun, it's hard to see my anti-cant device. And honestly, I don't really need this. The magnification ring is nice and smooth anyways, so I'm not really worried about that super long lever. So I'm actually probably just gonna take that off. But I do like the parallax throw lever, and as you can tell here, the Kahles DLR comes with its own parallax throw lever, so from the top down you can see your numbers, whereas this one has pretty much an aftermarket model, and it doesn't have that. But having that nice little leverage to be able to adjust that parallax on the fly is nice, especially when you first get the optic. The parallax is pretty stiff. Now there's a huge noticeable difference in terms of glass quality between the k624 and the k525i, and I'll talk about glass here in a little bit, but there's also a noticeable difference in terms of eye box. So if you're still on the k624 and you're trying to figure out if you need to make the jump between the k525i or the DLR, I'm gonna go and help you out. And I would say that as long as you like that skimmer 4 reticle, I would definitely upgrade from the k624 to the DLR. But another question I'm probably gonna get is, all right, I've got a k525i already with the skimmer 3 or the skimmer 4 reticle. Should I make the jump to the DLR? I would only make that jump because there's a slight price difference where the DLR is a little higher. I would only make that jump if you already have a hard time reading the turrets on the elevation knob. Again, as you guys can see here, in terms of comparison, the DLR is just a lot bigger, right? So if I go to 2 mils versus I go to 2 mils here, roughly 2 mils, 1.8, there's 2, and there's 2, and then let's say I go to 2.6, 2.6. So again, immediately off the bat, I can easily tell with the DLR what my elevation turret is without having to squint versus the k525i regular. It's just a little harder to see. If you are making the switch from a k624, I would definitely make the jump from the k624 straight to the DLR, in my personal opinion, if you are trying to figure out that upgrade option. Now, I haven't been able to really confirm this, but it does seem that the DLR has just a little softer eye box than the original k525i, and honestly, that was just my biggest, I'd say, pickle with the Kahles compared to some of the other optics that I've shot behind, is the Kahles optic. The eye box is just a little tighter than some other optics, to where all of my scopes, if you look on all my guns, are set all the way back on the rails, especially when it's mounted in this spur mount. Again, not really a big deal. I mean, I've got good eye relief. It's just, on some scopes, I've got a little bit more forward and aft on my rails in order to achieve the same eye relief. Now, this k525i here, after it's zeroed, so it's just zeroed right now, it's zeroed for a 308, and I've got exactly 18.6 mils of travel after it's being zeroed on a 20 MOA base, which gets me out to, at standard sea level, out to about 1,300 yards with a 308 without having to hold over, which honestly is good enough for me. And then another last thing that I'll talk about in terms of big noticeable differences between the K624 and the K525 models is parallax. The parallax starts with the K624 at 50 yards or 50 meters. I believe it's in meters because, you know, it's made in Austria, whereas the K525 starts at 20 yards or meters. So if you are looking to get into the 22 game, this is definitely an option for your 22 rifle to be able to zoom in or adjust your parallax at that closer ranges. Now, one thing that I've noticed, and I'll just talk about this real quick, it's not really much of a big deal, but in terms of the, you know, click difference of the K525 and the DLR, if you notice or if you can hear, the K525i has it just sounds a lot poppier. You know, you still got your nice tactile clicks, where the DLR has just a little soft. I mean, it's still nice and tactile, but they're just slightly softer than the K525i. So I'm not sure if that is going to be a deal breaker for some of you guys, but just to show you guys the comparison in terms of how the turrets feel between the two. Now, the windage turret still has the same amount of revolutions. They didn't widen out the windage turret, right? Just the elevation turret for the DLR. So let's go ahead and talk about why I run the Kahles line of optics over all the other rifle scopes on the market. And I'm going into my 5th season running these optics, and you know, to really answer that question, I'd say that the Kahles has everything that I need out of a rifle scope for the applications in which I shoot long range, which is being a long range instructor, a high level precision rifle competitor, and a long range hunter. Now, and I'm talking overall package, not just glass quality, because, you know, I'm sure you guys are gonna have a lot of questions. Well, how does the glass stack up against some of the other its peers in terms of the, you know, price range or bracket? And honestly, it holds its own. The best way to explain that is, and really the best way to look and compare glass in terms of contrast, resolution, edge clarity, is to set all these rifle scopes side by side and really in low light conditions to be able to tell the difference. But again, because of the overall package in terms of features, which again, my favorite features of this rifle scope compared to other ones is the location of the parallax knob, to where now, especially if I'm running you know, a precision rifle competition, a troop line from 200 yards to, let's say, 800, and you need to adjust your parallax for those distances from one extreme to another. Once I adjust my elevation turret, then I just immediately reach down and adjust my parallax accordingly. And then for my rifle scope that have the left side windage options, I know this one doesn't, but most of my other ones do, I don't have to take my face or roll my face off to the side of the gun in order to see what my windage is at. So let's say I go up to a stage, you know, for a precision rifle stage, and I pre-dial my wind. I always know what my wind is on, in the case, you know, when you get in the moment and the zone, you know, you forget and try to figure out, okay, what wind am I at? And to take your face off the gun and roll your head over to the right, and then have to rebuild my shooting position all over again. That's why I'm a big fan of the Kahles as well as the Reticle. I'm a big fan of the Skimmer 3 and the Skimmer 4 Reticle. It's got nice x-axis of the reticle. You've got great mill markers in terms of being able to make really precise wind calls, and in the case I'm shooting movers.
In. Impact. 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 Impact.
Engage movers as well. The Skimmer 4 is a nice upgrade from the Skimmer 3 because now you've got more fine-tuned elevation marks along the y-axis of the reticle. So that pretty much is the reason why I run the Kahles line of optics. Again, the overall package of the Kahles line suits me for what I need for long range. Trust me, there's a lot of great optics out there. You know, Night Force, Tangent Theta, Zero Compromise. I've been behind them all. But again, I love the ergonomics of the Kahles line. All right, so what's next? So this DLR is going to live on my competition rifle for the 2021 season, which is my 6BRA built by Short Action Customs, and just going to have fun with it. Again, I like that 8% field of view. I like the nice wide turret. You can kind of see the difference here between, you know, shooting with my GoPro view between the DLR and the K525i as far as being able to read the turrets. And then on my other rifles, again, because I've got a lot of other K525i's on some of my trainer rifles, and for my backup competition rifle, I mean, there's no need to switch all those out, swap those all out for DLRs. So I'm just going to keep my trainer rifles and my backups with the regular K525i Skimmer 4 reticles, left side windage. So, okay guys, I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's a couple things that I missed when talking about the Kahles which are two really important items I think that I need to cover, which is tracking and durability. Now, I've had zero issues with the tracking of any of my Kahleses, and actually Frank Galley from Sniper Side, him and another instructor, Mark Taylor, put together a compilation of track tests that they do in their courses, and for all of the Kahleses that they saw, they scored, every Kahles k525i scored a 100%, even I believe the few k624s that they saw, and that was up to 10 mils. And honestly, again, for most shooters that are engaging within 1,000 yards, that's more than enough. And then obviously once you get to like 15, 16 mils, you start to get to about 99, 98%. But again, for most long range shooters that are staying within maybe 10 to 12 mils of elevation travel when shooting out to 1,000 yards, that's all they're really going to need. Now, as far as durability is always a question with the Kahles, but I've got nothing but full faith and confidence in this thing after dropping it a couple times. I'm not perfect. There's a couple times that I've dropped it right on top of the elevation turret in training and in other scenarios. I'm just gonna say that when I did go either recheck to confirm zero or just continue on with the course of fire, no issues whatsoever in terms of point aim, point impact shift. So I've got a lot of trust, faith, and confidence. I think this thing is built like a tank. You know, I've taken out a couple backcountry hunts and was successful on a deer hunt out to about 500 yards. But with strapping that optic straight to my pack and walking around all over the hills of Washington and Wyoming. So got a lot of confidence that the k525i is durable. All right, so hopefully that covers that, and hopefully it gives you a better insight on my experiences with its tracking and durability. Again, I've got over 7 Kahles rifle scopes. I've been running them for about 5 years now in various applications, and I haven't had any one of my rifle scopes go down. You know, maybe I'm not hard enough or whatever on them, but I would say I've put a lot of my scopes through the ringer with what I do for long range shooting. So hopefully that gives you guys, if you guys are in the market, to buy with confidence with the Kahles rifle scope. Okay guys, that pretty much wraps up the review of the DLR, as well as why I run the Kahles line of optics. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys made it this far, please like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever kind of questions you want. I know you guys are probably gonna ask, well, can you stack up the glass against other rifle scopes? That's definitely in the future, on top of many other things. So thanks, and you know the drill. Keep your face in the gun.